Hey guys, once again, I don't have enough time right now to do the actual content that I want to be doing, so I'm going to do a quick sit-down discussion video while I have some time and while it's so brutally hot that I'm tired of doing some of the other things I need to be doing right now. I want to talk about knife steel performance. I did a discussion video about whether or not we are simply looking at consumerism and the market providing fake options to the consumer to get them excited to continue to buy, or whether we're making actual advancements. And this topic ruffles a lot of feathers, and so what I want to talk about specifically is a performance par. That means that does a steel have the potential to meet a minimum level of performance that makes it acceptable for its intended task? You see, when the average person, the non-knife guy, looks at a knife, they basically know of two different knife steels: stainless and carbon. That's it. That is your knife steel. Is it stainless or is it carbon? Oh, I don't like carbon because it rusts. Oh, I don't like stainless because it's weak. That's about as far as the average non-knife person's depth of knowledge goes. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably a knife addict and your knife knowledge is far beyond that. And so when you purchase a knife, you are looking at a lot of detailed information that goes far beyond that point. But the average person, they don't. There's also, for the average non-knife person, two levels of quality: made in USA and made anywhere else, typically China or Taiwan. And so we have this hyper oversimplified idea of a knife's performance and hardness. They'll say, if they know of any other steel, I like this steel because it's harder. I hear that all the time. Now, and as an interesting point, and this is a side topic that maybe I'll get into more, if there's anything that is good about Montana Knife Company, it is that they have broadened the appeal of a higher quality knife to the average non-knife boomer who would never care otherwise. So what I would hear in the past is that from everybody, listen, from everybody that's not a knife nerd, we surround ourselves with knife nerds, and we talk, and then we feel like people know things, and then you go out in the world and you realize a knife nerd is 1 in 1,000 people or less. So what Montana Knife Company has done, first off, they didn't, there's a lot of issues here. This is a very sticky topic, but they didn't invest in the knife community. They weren't going to Blade Show. They weren't taking the normal route. They were advertising through non-knife channels and to non-knife people. And because of that, we have this huge, the good part of this, we have this huge influx of people who have just bought a knife in 52-100 or in Magna Cut and introduced people to a knife that is they believe is worth more than what they used to believe was high quality. Because what I was about to say is the average knife person, when they think of a premium quality knife, they think of two things: case or buck. They think of the best quality thing that they can buy at their local Walmart or Ace Hardware store. And so, if again, now, they've paid over a custom knife cost for a paracord wrapped handle. They've realized that they've got a thinner edge and it holds an edge much longer. So we have a whole new market segment that has of non-knife people that have been introduced to knife performance, and hopefully those people will bleed out back into the industry and be good for the entire industry. Okay, so the point of all of this, I do this video on consumerism versus actual knife performance. The point is that although non-knife people could certainly benefit on taking a step forward in education, us knife spectrum people very likely could take a step back. And so all of the comments from people about the toughest knife with the best warranty is made in 1095, referring to Essie. I love Essie, guys. I can go talk to Essie right now, and I'll advertise their products above my own right now for certain applications and certain people and, of course, certain budgets. This person's talking about Essie. Now, Essie knives are not the toughest knives. That's not a bad thing. They're not the toughest knives. The best warranty, Essie's no questions asked warranty, is great. There's a lot of other companies that do it, but I do believe that Essie themselves revolutionized the industry with their warranty. And if people say that they have the best warranty, well, maybe Essie deserves that for the work that they put in on the front end to almost make that warranty an industry standard. It's not quite a standard, but you know, there's a lot of companies doing it at this point. You know, White River Knife and Tool has a lifetime satisfaction guarantee. So, and yet they do have this reputation. They're very tough knives, but they've gained this reputation as the toughest knife. They're not the toughest knife, but they're in 1095. They're differentially hardened. That has some pluses and some minuses. They are so far beyond the toughness level that the average knife person or even the advanced knife person will need. There's a reason why when you take a survival class or you rub shoulders with survivalists or actual bushcrafters, they often have regular grade carbon steels because they are tough enough. So to put this into context, you know, if this watch needs to be able to withstand 200 foot-pounds of pressure, okay, before it snaps off of my arm, and acquiring satellites, no, don't stop. Whatever you're doing, stop doing whatever it is you're doing. Okay, 200 foot-pounds of force, but an upgraded model of this watch or an upgraded band on this watch can withstand 400 million foot-pounds of pressure, but the watch band costs 100 times more than the watch or the whole setup, right? Where's the value? The value in increases in toughness, generally speaking, lies in being able to increase hardness, increase strength, and decrease edge thickness so that we can do tasks more easily and for a longer period of time without maintenance. But when we look at a steel like 1095, which at whatever various heat treat, let's say, has 10 foot-pounds of toughness, and I produce a knife in 15N20 or 8670 with 55 foot-pounds of toughness, does that mean that my knife can handle 5 times the amount of abuse in real-world use? And I would tell you the answer most likely is no. No, you know, Maple, come here. A lot of knives break from shock and impact. And, you know, so if I can hit one knife with a hammer, don't do that. A 5-pound hammer at full strength, does that mean with the tougher steel I can take a 25-pound hammer at full strength and hit it? No. Now the forces exerted would be more than 5 times as high for various reasons, and these stresses are exponential. But that's an important thing to remember, is we're looking at marginal increases, and a lot of times what you're paying for when you get a knife that is more expensive in a better steel. You might have marginal increases in steel performance, or you might have exceptional increases depending on what steel difference we're talking about at either ends of the spectrum. But more likely what you're paying for is a smaller company that's catering to a smaller niche in the market, therefore has higher overhead, but offers other things that give more than a marginal increase in performance. So that means a thinner edge, better handle geometry, better handle shape, or a more niche design that is more perfectly suited for a specific use. If I tell you that I want you as a custom maker to make me an SE5. Let's pretend that there's not a ethical issue with that. I want you to make me an SE5. Why would I think that you, as the theoretical custom maker, looking to afford to pay your rent, to feed your family, to invest in your company, and to spend the time to make a single knife by hand one step at a time, can compete with SE, who's having their knives made by Rowan Manufacturing by the thousands? Why would I expect you to compete in price? I shouldn't be able to expect that. It doesn't make any sense. Now let's take that a step further. I want you to make me an SE5, but I want the handle to be smaller. I want it to use mammoth tusk ivory scales that the material cost alone is $100, or fossilized dinosaur bone. The handle material itself is $200. I want the handles to be more rounded. I want thinner edge geometry. I want you to use Baker forged Damascus that is forged in this very small shop. But I want you to be price competitive with an SE5. You're going to part of the knife industry and becoming a knife nerd is realizing that you want something a little bit different than what is the industry standard, and the understanding that you're going to pay for that. So a lot of times when you buy a knife from a smaller company and it costs more, that cost is based on the cost of doing business at a smaller scale. And so it really frustrates me to hear very commonly, oh, well, if you can't sell that knife at $50, you shouldn't even be selling knives. That's capitalist greed. What you're saying when you say that is that the only people who should be in business are mega companies with millions of dollars in invest and hundreds of employees with a streamlined process, and nobody else should even be in business. Basically, you're a communist and an idiot. All right? Because these same people who are like, oh, well, if you can't compete in price, why are you even doing it? You're more expensive than X company just because you're greedy. These are the same people flipping burgers at McDonald's and saying that they deserve to make $20 an hour. They don't want to do any more work, but they deserve more money, and they deserve to get your handmade product at a fraction of what it should cost. Sadly, the entire custom knife maker industry has had to cater to this because the market is hyper oversaturated, and our knife makers, on average, are barely making enough money to continue making knives and feed their families. They are not making enough money to invest in their companies and grow. And so you have companies like Winkler, a Montana knife company, making a production knife, selling it for more than a custom knife, because guess what? They're running a business. They have some business understanding, and they understand the importance of being able to charge enough to grow that business and to invest. Anyways, this is not about business and cost. This is about performance and understanding performance. Now, to get back to performance, was a huge hater of D2 tool steel. I will do a video specifically on D2. Lord willing, this fall, I intend to shoot a crow out of the sky and then eat it for the video. Work Tough Gear with their Austrian D2 equivalent from Bowler. I think it's K110, but it's off the top of my head. I can't remember. I could be wrong. That's okay with me. K110, whatever it is, D2, or Half-Breed Blades, or Wander Tactical, okay? All of these companies have shown me knives with aggressive edge geometry that have held up to abuse. Now, I don't think you can go too thin with D2 due to carbide size, but regardless, I take these knives out, I abuse the crap out of them, expecting microchipping. I don't get microchipping. The edge geometry is acceptable, and then when the knives get dull, they're easy for me to sharpen back up. So where is all of the hate coming from? Of course, we have a lot of crappy, cheap D2 knives out there, and everything coming from China, when it was popular to do so, said that it was in D2, whether it was or not. But we have these knives in 1095, like from Essie and so many other companies, and they will perform admirably if done correctly. And so we've got like the HRC police guys, the guys who just cut cardboard and tape, looking at Laren Thomas's data and telling you that they don't have enough edge holding. And, you know, this baby soft, butter soft knife, this, that, and the other. They don't understand manufacturing of scale. They, generally speaking, don't actually get out into the woods and actually use their knives. And they also don't understand, like Laren Thomas has mentioned recently in his own articles, that his testing is based on Catra cards and how much they can cut before they get dull. But the carbides suspended in these abrasive cards are harder than those found suspended in your high carbon steel knives. So the results are not necessarily directly related to your field use. And that to some degree can skew your edge holding performance needs. Now, what does that mean? Let me talk to you about non-Laren Thomas, non-scientific based edge holding experience. I can go out here with a knife in 1095 or 01 or 12C27 or 420 high carbon. I can make feather sticks all doggone day. I can baton through wood, and when I blast a squirrel or a hare, I can skin that thing out and gut it and cook it, and then I can use that knife to cut my meat. I can do it over and over and over again with good edge geometry, with basic knives, not with special heat treats, with an Essie or with a Buck or with a Mora. And I can do all of it with an edge that is sharp enough to make the work efficient. And then when I need to sharpen the knife, I can do so very easily. Let me give you the flip side, because there's always a flip side. One of my first experiences as an adult skinning out a buck, it was frozen, and I was using a Tops MSK whatever, the original one, that was supposed to be a 0 ground Scandi, but it wasn't, because I'm sure they broke too many of them when they released being 0 ground. They changed it without telling anyone. Part of my issue was edge geometry and was likely heat treat, but we're skinning out this deer and my knife is going dull. And I'm getting it on the sticks to sharpen it back up. It's going dull over and over again. And my buddy's got a cheap Schrade in 3CR, 5CR, whatever, cheap grade stainless, a little skinny knife with better edge geometry. Again, a very important part of this factor. His knife's not going dull. This is very early in my knife journey, and I'm like, what the crap? I was pissed. It was so frustrating. And at this point in my life, I'm still at the point of stainless bad, stainless weak, stainless suck, carbon good, carbon hold edge, carbon tough. And so again, your non-knife person, that's basically their understanding. We can bring that up a degree. All of the sources that we have for education can really benefit the average person and bring that up a degree. But on the flip side, the people who are doing all of the research and who feel important based in their knowledge from doing this research, completely separated from firsthand experience, they can bring it back a notch. Get out and use your gear. Include in more than just the local barbecue, more than just cutting some cardboard or sitting and tapping some antler in your basement. Okay? Actually do stuff like, it's okay to collect shoes. It's okay to collect watches. It's okay to collect knives. But when you want to be educated in knives and you base your personality on your knife education, but you're collecting them like a woman collects shoes, and you don't actually use knives for knife stuff, like, oh, I really like my knife. What's next? I gotta buy the next knife. How about go build some experiences with that knife, and then you can temper this knowledge that you've gained on Knife Steel Nerds or elsewhere with experience, and then you can create, you can take knowledge and you can create wisdom. There's a par for knife performance. Once you've, come on dogs, mapes, once you've decided that you like knives, once you've caught the bug, once you've got the SE, you can keep using it forever. And the guys in these classes that are actually using their knives are typically like, do you enjoy bushcraft, or do you like knives and you do bushcraft? Do you enjoy survival, or do you like knives and you play survival? This is as relevant to me as anybody who could be watching. The guys who like survival most often don't know crap about knives, and it doesn't matter. And the guys who are really into bushcraft generally don't know crap about knives, and it does not matter. That doesn't mean, on the flip side, that we're not making advancements. It doesn't mean that this consumerism that is driving these new steels is not good for bushcraft and for survival and for the market as a whole. It just means there's a par for performance. And when you are taking your opinions to these extremes without context, you're doing yourself and the industry a disservice. And then if you're saying that my 12C27, 420HC, 1070, or 1095 is good enough and all of that other stuff is just fluff and we don't need anything better, you're doing the industry a disservice. Let's hit down the middle. Okay, these advancements matter. For so long, the industry was stuck in dummy thick edge thickness, dummy soft knifeville, and it was a horrible thing. And I've been ranting and raving against it for the past probably 8 years, where every folder at Blade Show had an edge thickness of 50 thou or thicker, and everything was 56 or 58. We don't need that. We've moved past that, thank the Lord. On the flip side, not everything has to be Rex 121 at 5 thou behind the edge and 67 HRC. And a knife that is softer is not worse. This oversimplification, the people who are not going to actually become educated are never fully going to get the whole message. They're going to get a very brief synopsis and understanding of how this all works. And generally what that looks like is more harder, more better, more thinner, more better. And that leads to knife makers who cater to that kind of clientele, and they have a 1 in 50 advertised warranty claim rate. That's not something you should be advertising. That's something that you should realize and fix, because that's a huge problem. That's a huge value proposition problem for your customer. And guys, like, again, you don't have to be at either extreme. You shouldn't be at either extreme. Go to Knife Steel Nerds. Read about performance. Look at the charts. Temper your knowledge to create wisdom. And when you're looking at performance, keep in mind what par performance looks like. And a well-designed knife from a custom knife maker with a beautiful handle and good edge geometry in any steel, properly heat treated, is better than some stupid gimmick knife with a poorly designed edge geometry, improper behind the edge thickness, and poor handle geometry every doggone time. So if you enjoyed this discussion, let me know in the comment section below. As you probably know, the best way to support this channel is to go to exodusknifeandtool.com and purchase one of my knife brand knives. By the way, guys, let me just say, someone's gonna be like, he made this video bashing on Rex 121 because he has a knife company that uses S35VN and A2. Or he's bashing on 1095 because he uses whatever. Guys, I'm out here wearing a Reef Knives shirt because I like Reef Knives. And I will tell you to go buy an Essie if I think that your budget and your use parameters are a good match for them. Like, I do not have competition in the industry. I don't. I'm selling me, my designs. I'm going to be moving forward with steels. I'm going to be using the best steels based on a variety of variables, and nobody else is going to be doing what I'm doing because they're not me. All right. So these discussion videos, they're not about me versus somebody else. What I really want to do is help the consumer make educated decisions, not overeducated, educated and wise decisions. And if the consumer makes educated and wise decisions and knows what to look for in a blade, that will drive the industry towards providing a better product. And the industry is doing that. We, I think, as a whole, have defeated the fat edge empire. Big, thick edge geometry, big brother looking over our heads, trying to sell knives with bashing cinder blocks. Like, we're beyond that as an industry. So we need to continue to focus on what is important, and education is power. And the more of the industry, the more of the consumer that is educated and wise, the more benefit the consumer will see from the industry as a whole in the products that are offered. Rock and roll, guys. I'll talk to you in the comment section below, and I hope that you have a blessed day.